Welcome to another edition of the Black Belt Selling video blog. Last time I talked to you about why customers and business decision makers hate technology. This time I'm going to talk about how you can make your customers love your technology solutions. And in particular, I'm going to talk about the value proposition. In other words, the value that your solution will bring to the clients. Because this is what you've got to get really clear. You've got to make your value proposition compelling, unique, and tangible. Now, you've got to do all those things in the context of the customer's world. So let's just think about this. What are customers looking for from anything that they buy in their business? Well, they're looking for a return on investment. In other words, they're going to put money into this and they're going to get money out. And they want a bigger return than the investment. In fact, because of all the things we talked about last time in terms of the hidden costs and the risk and the bad selling that goes on and things like that, they typically want a return on investment of at least 10 to 1 these days to make it anywhere near viable or anywhere near compelling. So it's got to be compelling. So when we talk about return on investment and getting more back than what they put in, what are we talking about there? Well, what they're looking for in terms of value is that you will reduce their cost base. In other words, the solution that you put in will reduce the cost of running their business. And we'll come back to that. Or it'll reduce the risk to the business in terms of operational risk, financial risk, or regulatory risk. They're looking for the solution to bring more income to them in terms of more revenue from existing customers or new customers. Or they're looking for your solution to improve their brand. Now, you're probably wondering, how the heck can a technology solution improve a company's brand? Well, we'll talk about that in a minute. But first of all, I want to talk about the one that I started with in terms of value proposition, reducing the cost and the overall cost of running the business. Lots and lots of examples where technology solutions have actually reduced the cost of running a business. For instance, video conferencing at a very basic level takes away the need to travel and therefore the cost of travel. So it can reduce the overheads in a business. Sometimes it enables insurance companies to remotely assess insurance claims and damage via video technology. For instance, video technology was one of the early solutions that brought obvious reductions in cost. But as you can imagine, things like software as a service or better infrastructure can reduce the costs of maintenance, it can reduce the costs of licensing or the costs of infrastructure, and the costs of support within the customer's organization if they've outsourced their applications to a company that provides a readily available software as a service and as a pay-as-you-go rather than an upfront investment. And that opens up a whole subject in its own right in terms of pay-as-you-go versus upfront capital investment. So reduction of costs can be in terms of direct costs, overheads, moving from an upfront capital to an operational expenditure or pay-as-you-go, which in itself brings returns in terms of the cost of capital. And lots of conversations you have with the finance director in those regards, and that applies to hardware, software, infrastructure, software as a service, cloud-based solutions, and networking technology. Really interesting conversations with a finance director in terms of cost of ownership and cost of running the business and how the solution can impact on that. When you get to risk, that can be financial risk, as I said, operational risk, or market risk, or regulatory risk. If it's financial risk, you're back to the typically the finance director and conversations there in terms of if you've got a solution that can get the clients to pay up front. That means, by the way, I mean not your client, the client's customers pay up front online before they get a service, then that improves cash flow. If you can get a solution that makes it easier for them to get their customers to direct debit, again, that's improving cash flow. By the way, that would reduce cost, but it would also reduce the risk in terms of the risk of having to chase bills and chase bad debt. So that's a conversation with the finance director. But when I get to operational risk, where you can put systems or solutions in place that actually make companies more resilient, for instance, At one level, it could be closed-circuit TV or web-based technology for monitoring. But on the other hand, it can be things like warning for when sites go down or sites go offline, or when people aren't available, and those sorts of things. And even if you look at the public sector with a transport environment, where you get early warning if a train's going too fast or something like that, a whole plethora of areas where they can reduce their operational risk, and that can be turned into tangible value. And that's typically a conversation with the operations director, and it's a really valuable conversation. If you're then talking about the value proposition being where they'll bring more clients or bring more revenue, then that can be a conversation with the marketing director, the sales director, or the finance director, and really, conversation, or that's your choice, and you should think through the proposition. We'll talk about that more in the next installment as to who you choose to go and talk about these things. And right at the top, there's the bit about the brand development. And I said I'd come back to this. How can technology improve a brand? Well, if you think about it, if you give a service that actually takes away manual ordering from your client's customers and puts it online and makes it absolutely secure so that no orders are ever lost, that indeed will improve the brand. If in a retail environment, if you can improve their order to delivery time through your technology, then again that can improve customers' perception and improve the brand. Also, if you can have a media solution or a technology solution or any of these solutions whereby you can get the customer's brand out there in front of their customers or prospective customers better, then that's not just about getting more revenue directly, but it's about getting brand awareness out there. And all of the things that I've talked about before in terms of improving the cost, improving the risk, and all of those things ultimately, if you can reduce the risk profile for a company, particularly in the finance sector, then that in itself would improve the brand and improve the attractiveness for investors. So really what we're coming to is you've got to be bold with your value proposition. It can't be a value proposition that you just introduce to the customer out of the blue. It's got to be presented in the context of the customer's world and what the customer has on their mind in terms of the pressures they're under, problems that they're facing, where they want to get to either implicitly or explicitly, and then align your value proposition directly to that. So you've got to do your research, you've got to do your planning, you've got to think about how you introduce the conversation, and you've got to do a lot more listening than talking for getting the customer to talk about their world, and then and only then introducing this unique value proposition. But if you can do all of this, and that's what black belt selling is all about, getting you absolutely confident in doing this in the right way, in a measured and structured and proven way, then you will make your customers love technology and love your technology solutions. You will be absolutely successful, you'll outsell your competition, and you'll make your customer love working with you. Thanks for joining us in this installment of the Black Belt Selling video blog. Look forward to seeing you in the next installment. Thanks for joining us.